thunder of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful...
A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again you'll know it's time for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends.
Starring that supersonic speedster, Rocket J. Squirrel, with his pal Bullwinkle the Moose, and a host of others.
Hurry, Bullwinkle! The show's about to start!
I'm coming as fast as I can.
Wave to the people!
Yay!
Now what are you doing?
Sign an autograph. Let's see. John Smith.
But your name is Bullwinkle.
I know, but that's hard to spell.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Come on and join us.
Sure, there's always room for one more.
Our story opens today in the typical American community of Frostbite Falls, Minnesota. Like all small American towns, Frostbite Falls has a city hall, a church, a bowling alley, and a movie house. The only difference is that in Frostbite Falls, they're all in the same building. But the other downtown building holds the town's newspaper, the Frostbite Falls Picayune Intelligence, and its editor, Colonel McCornpone.
Stop the presses! Stop the presses!
What's up, Colonel? A big scoop?
Nope.
Election results?
Nope.
Cat up a tree?
Nope.
Then how come you want me to stop the presses?
Because we're broke, that's why.
Broke? How come? We print 50,000 copies today.
Yeah, but we only sell 25 of them.
It was true. At that moment, the stacks of unsold Picayune Intelligences reached as high as the building itself.
I need something to boost my circulation, Mokesby.
How about a shot of adrenaline?
Not my personal circulation, the papers. What can we do to boost our sales?
Well, how about sponsoring a buried treasure hunt?
I've got it, Mokesby. We'll sponsor a buried treasure hunt. How do you like that?
I couldn't like it better if it was my own idea.
So in a short while, Frostbite Falls was plastered with posters telling about the great event. And two of the first citizens to read about it were our heroes, Rocky the Flying Squirrel and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Look at that, Rock. Find the Picayune pot containing $1 million and win a genuine, reconditioned Stearns Knight runabout.
Did you really bury $1 million in a pot, Colonel McCornpone?
You bet I did, Rocky boy. Of course, it's Confederate money.
But that flashy car is really real, huh?
Absolutely, Bullwinkle.
It looks a little old-fashioned.
Of course, it's the 1910 model. They don't build them like that anymore.
I can see why.
Now be sure to read the Picayune Intelligence for clues.
We sure will, Colonel.
And they did, and so did everybody else. For the first time in years, the paper sold every copy as soon as it appeared on the street.
Extra, got your paper?
Latest clues in treasure hunt.
Well, let me have a paper.
No, you don't. This one's mine.
It's a great success, Rocky. The paper's selling like hotcakes, eh, Mokesby?
It should. That's what I'm printing it on.
You mean...
Yep, Colonel. We've run plumb out of paper.
But this is awful, Mokesby.
Yeah, I'm running out of hotcakes, too.
What'll we do, Rocky? Our first chance to really sell papers, and we don't have any.
Now, wait a minute, Colonel. You have a whole stack of papers right in the back of the building, don't you?
Of course, but they're old newspapers. Look here. Some of them go back 5 years.
Yeah, but look at the headlines, Colonel.
International tension increases.
Cost of living up again.
Big traffic accident.
Local dog chases local cat over local fence.
Say.
You see? They're the same headlines that are in today's papers.
Then we can sell these papers today.
Sure. You can print the contest rules around the edges.
Rocky, you're an authentic phenomenon.
No, I'm more of a squirrel.
And following Rocky's suggestion, the Colonel reissued his newspapers with great success. But our three friends were unaware that a short distance away, a group of very undesirable characters were preparing to destroy their peace and quiet.
Everybody in his work clothes?
Yes, boss.
Everybody got his implements?
Right, boss.
Then let's go.
Well, who are these sinister figures? Maybe we'll find out next time
Not if I can help it.
when we see a Tisket a Casket or the Berry Box.
And now it's time for...
Time for the dancing fool, Bullwinkle.
Again? And now for one of our special fairy tales.
Yeah.
Many years ago, there was a year that was a mighty bad year for witches. They were everywhere. Big ones, little ones, and uglier ones. In fact, there were so many that there just weren't enough people to go round to cast spells upon.
Let go. I want to put him to sleep for 100 years.
You let go. I'm going to change him into a chicken.
But I saw him first.
You did not.
It got so bad that even the witches couldn't tell which witch was which. Then one day, as a little witch was searching the forest for a victim...
If I don't find somebody to cast a spell on pretty soon, I'll...
Then suddenly, the witch saw a little frog sitting on a log near a pond.
Well, what have we here?
We have a frog. What have we there?
I'm a witch.
That figures.
And I'm going to cast a spell on you.
Oh, come now. I'm already a frog. What else could you do to me?
But the witch was desperate, and with a wave of her hand, she changed the frog into a handsome young prince.
Oh, boy, that felt good.
Hey, what's the big idea? I don't want to be a handsome prince. I was happy as a frog.
Well, I admit it isn't the kind of a spell we usually cast, but times are hard. Ta-ta, dearie.
The young prince went back to the log and squatted down where he used to sit as a frog and dreamed of catching flies, but somehow it just wasn't the same. He even tried a few croaks.
Me. Chug-a-rump. Chug-a-rump.
But it was no use. He knew that if he was ever to be happy again, he must find the witch and make her change him back into a frog.
Well, it's like they say. You can take the frog out of the pond, but you can't take the pond out of the frog.
So the young man set off in search of the witch, and after several hours of stumbling through the woods, he stumbled into a castle. This particular castle was owned by a king who had a very beautiful but unmarried daughter.
Why don't you get a husband?
They're all frogs or something these days.
This young man who just walked through our wall doesn't look like a frog.
Oh, are you a handsome young prince?
No, I'm a handsome young frog.
See?
No. The boy is just a little mixed up. What he needs is a wife, say, like you.
So, despite the young prince's protests, they were married. They were very happy and had everything except a home.
But, dearest, do all brides have to live in a pond?
They do if their husband is a frog, and where are those flies I asked you to catch me?
But if I don't get a real house of my own pretty soon, I'll just die.
The young frog prince finally gave in and built her a beautiful cottage. Then one day, when he was in the yard casing a June bug, a witch came by.
Oh, goody. A handsome young prince. Probably the last one left in the kingdom, and he's all mine. I'll change him into a...
Frog?
Good idea. A frog it will be.
That night, at the dinner table...
You know, honey, you've insisted that you're a frog for so long that you're even beginning to look like one.
But I keep telling you I am a frog, and if we don't move back to the pond, I'll just die.
Just then, the little witch who had originally cast a spell upon him came by and was amazed to see that he'd returned to a frog.
Mighty strange. Usually when I prince them, they stay princed. Well, I'll try again.
Only this time, he was changed into a chicken.
Well, that did it.
And deciding that it was time to call a halt to such nonsense, he angrily stormed into the witches' union where he confronted the head witch.
Now, look, first I was a frog, then a prince, and now I'm a chicken. I've had enough Kings's X.
Okay, I'll change you back to whatever you say. What would you like to be?
Be a prince, honey.
Yeah, a prince.
So be it. Here, Prince. Nice prince.
Not that kind of a prince.
Oh, sorry.
But try as she would, the old witch couldn't change him into a prince, so she finally returned him to a frog.
Whew. I'm sorry, dearie, but you've been bewitched so much that I just can't make a prince out of you.
The poor frog was confused and very sad. He turned to his wife and said,
Will you still love me even though I'm just a frog?
Well... Chug-a-rumph. Yes.
And with that, they both hopped back to the pond, where they sat on a mossy rock and exclaimed,
If we have to stay frogs for the rest of our lives, we'll just die.
Of course, they didn't die, but you can rest assured that they croaked every night.
Today's lesson is mighty important, remember?
Bullwinkle is a...
Not that lesson. This lesson. Hello, you poetry and snow lovers. Today's poem begins this here way. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. The horse knows the way to carry the sleigh.
That horse knows the way?
To grandma's, please, and don't spare the horse. See what I mean? Over the river and through the wood. Oh, how these... Oh!
You sure he knows the way?
Of course, Rock. Looky there. Over the river and through the woods. Now grandmother's cap I spy. Hurrah for the fun. Is the pudding done? Hurrah for the pumpkin pie. Hey, you don't look like no grandma to me.
You're no Red Riding Hood yourself, Jack.
Bullwinkle
Bullwinkle, are you sure this is the right house?
Oh, it's the right house. It's just the wrong story.
Well, how is that possible?
Easy. It's a two-story house.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
And now it's time to meet Mr. Peabody.
Peabody here, along with Sherman and a handful of lemons.
Why the lemons, Mr. Peabody?
Because we're going to England, and I prefer lemon in my tea. The year will be 1880, and the place, that bulwark of British justice, Scotland Yard. And you and I, Sherman, will help them solve their most baffling case. The Wayback Machine whisked us, lemons and all, directly to London, and there, almost completely enshrouded with fog, stood Scotland Yard. We went to the Chief Inspector's office and heard the bad news.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid we have a bad show on our hands.
Does he mean ours?
Oh, no, he's referring to a crime.
Now, you all know what the crown jewels look like. They consist of 4,000 diamonds, 3,000 pearls, 43 rubies, and one little orphan Annie's secret whistle.
I beg your pardon, sir, but are we to understand the crown jewels have been stolen?
They have, sir, and we'll need all the assistance we can get in recovering them.
Where were they stolen from?
The Tower of London.
Then may I suggest you start by searching it for clues?
Impossible.
Why?
The thief took the tower, too.
We went out into the fog and checked, and sure enough, the tower was gone.
Clever chap, this thief, eh?
Do you think it was an inside job?
I should think so. Too foggy outside.
The Chief Inspector dispatched his men to all parts of the city with instructions to bring in every known fence.
You see, the thief will have to sell the jewels to a fence.
Unfortunately, the only fences his men brought in were of the white picket variety.
Good work, chaps. We'll grill them in the morning. Should look nice, white picket fence with a grill, eh?
Inspector, if you don't mind, Sherman and I will do some investigating on our own.
Capital. I'll go with you.
I had a hunch that anyone who stole the crown jewels would attempt to smuggle them out of the country. That was the reason why I insisted upon searching the banks of the Thames River.
There's a boat now.
Sherman's youthful eyes had spotted a small motor launch speeding along the far side of the river.
Can't we stop them, Mr. Peabody?
With Sherman and the inspector hot on my heels, I ran along the bank, turned right at London Bridge, ran directly to the center of that glorious structure, and prepared to leap from the rail.
Wait, don't do it, old fellow. It isn't that bad.
I'm going to jump into the boat, Inspector.
Oh, I thought you were going to. Have a nice trip.
Unfortunately, the person steering the launch saw me standing on the rail and turned at a 90-degree angle, but he didn't know I was a master parachutist, and even though I had no parachute, I did have wind. I said the word Geronimo and simply stepped off into the ozone. Utilizing my ears as flaps, I was able to guide my flight and landed not only on the boat, but on the skipper as well. It took but a moment to steer the launch into shore.
Good work, Mr. Peabody.
Magnificent.
Thank you. I only wish that results had been more favorable. You see, this gentleman didn't steal the crown jewels. He was merely attempting to sneak out of England to get away from his mother-in-law.
Just 1 second. I recognize you, sir, and I say you're a desperate criminal. We shall take him to the yard.
But, Inspector, it was no use. His mind was made up. The rest of the evening was spent in questioning the poor skipper.
Don't try to fool me, you bounder. I know you.
Of course you know him, Inspector. He's your brother.
That's right. He's my brother.
Brother.
Well, I knew him somewhere.
I made the proper apologies while Sherman made tea. As for the inspector, he was making everything but progress.
We shall search Westminster Abbey and even the House of Parliament. But we must find those crown jewels and the Tower of London.
Inspector, if you'll just wait until the sun rises, I'm sure I can clear this case up.
You can, Mr. Peabody? Cream in your tea?
Lemon, Sherman, remember we brought our own? Yes, at precisely 7:15, I can vouch for the recovery of not only the jewels, but the tower itself.
Preposterous.
It may have seemed so, but at precisely 7:15, the sun rose, its heat burned away the fog, and presto, there stood the Tower of London.
You mean to say it was hidden by the fog all this time?
I do.
Astounding. Positively astounding. Excuse me, won't you? I must grill those fences.
By the way, Mr. Peabody, that English policeman over there, why does he wear such a high hat?
Watch and you'll see. There. It's because he has so much hair. The hat keeps it out of his eyes. The hat and a strategically placed hairpin.
English policemen wear hairpins?
Bobby pin, Sherman. That's why they call them bobbies.
Last time you remember, Colonel McCornbone, editor of the Frostbite Falls Picayune Intelligence, sponsored a treasure hunt to boost sales of his newspaper.
Gee, a pot containing $1 million.
In Confederate money, of course.
Plus a genuine Stearns Knight runabout.
The 1910 model, completely renovated.
Renovated?
2 new inner tubes, and we polished the brass.
And here's our first clue, Bullwinkle.
The Picayune pot can now be found buried 6 foot underground.
But where, Colonel McCornbone?
That's the puzzle, Rocky.
So our heroes set to work to dig in all the likely places, only to find that everybody else in town had the same idea.
How about digging right here, Bullwinkle?
Good guess, buddy, but I was here first.
How about right over here?
Right over where, Jack?
It's no use, Bullwinkle. Everybody else is digging in the most likely spot.
Well, then I'm going to dig in the most unlikely spots.
But that's ridiculous, Bullwinkle.
I know, but that's all there is left.
So Bullwinkle sought out the least likely spots in town to dig a hole. He dug in the Frostbite Falls City Park. He dug under the Possum Trot Memorial Highway. He even dug in Scully's Swamp.
Rocky, I hit it! I hit it!
The treasure?
No, water.
But Bullwinkle's most sensational digging was done in an open field outside of town where suddenly...
Break comes the goo, Rocky! I've struck oil!
Hokey smoke!
I'm rich, rich!
Yes, it really was oil, flowing out in a great gusher. And small wonder, for Bullwinkle had been digging right outside the Poncefoot Oil Company refinery and had broken one of their main lines.
Boy, you know what I'm going to get first, Rocky?
Yeah, 30 days.
Sure enough, the moose was lodged in the town calaboose until...
Hey, Bullwinkle, the sheriff says you can go now.
I can?
Yeah, Mr. Poncefoot won't press charges on one condition.
Keen, what is it?
That you won't dig no more of them holes looking for the Picayune pot.
You mean I'm out of the contest?
Looks that way, Bullwinkle.
But I got my right.
You also got 30 days.
Yeah, funny how that works out.
So in the interest of public safety, Bullwinkle was ordered not to dig any more holes.
Shuckins and cobs.
If it'll make you feel better, Bullwinkle, I won't dig any either.
So Rocky and Bullwinkle became the only 2 people in town who weren't digging for the Picayune pot. Matter of fact, people came from as far away as Tadpole Center and Possum Trot just to dig in Frostbite Falls. Some even seem to have come from farther away than that.
Hey, buddy, is this where they digging for $1 million in Confederate money?
That's right, mister.
Okay, boys, this is the spot. Let's get started.
And as our heroes watched, the sinister-looking gang began to dig right through the pavement.
Why didn't I think of that?
You know, Bullwinkle, I think I've seen that face somewhere before.
Oh, if Rocky had only remembered, that face was displayed prominently just a few scenes ago on the wall of the Frostbite Falls Sheriff Station, for it belonged to Babyface Braunschweiger. But that's really Boris Badenoff, notorious forger, thief, bank robber, gunman, and litterbug.
Well, gee whizznick, nobody's perfect.
And now here he is in Frostbite Falls with a brand new gang of cutthroats.
Yeah, the light-fingered 5, -2.
Which way do we dig now, boss?
Let me check map.
But that's a map of the town bank. You're not...
That's right, Junior. We're going to rob the bank. You were thinking maybe of squealing on us, yes?
Why no. Be sure to be with us next time for Bank Busters or the Great Vaults.
Well, it looks as if our time has just about run out.
Just enough left to tell him who the sponsor was.
You got the credits, Bullwinkle?
All on this itty-bitty card. Oop.
We're late again, Bullwinkle.
Right.
Bye now. See you next time.